Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Anomaly course, Core Content Lesson 6, Universal Models. So there are three universal models. Firstly, let's cover internal range to external range, or IRL to ERL. It's really simple. It's really nothing new as far as key levels go. So key levels for IRL, ERL is going to be a fair value gap. So fair value gap in IRL or internal range liquidity, they're all the same thing, right? When we hit a fair value gap or IRL, we look to the opposing side of the range, the most recent high that caused the retracements into the gap. That is going to be your ERL or your external range, right? So universal models are a framework. They provide a key level and a draw on liquidity, right? The fair value gap as your key level, the draw on liquidity as the retracement high, or the high that caused price to go into the gap, right? Pretty simple. Now, secondly, let's go over ERL to IRL. Again, really simple. This is when price trades into a key level, which is going to be a high or a low, or in other words, external range liquidity. Once we trade into external range liquidity, we get a new phase of price, right? Expansion retracement. Where does price retrace into? Gaps or fair value gaps, IRL, same thing, right? So ERL, IRL, going from a swing high back into the range to a fair value gap. Really simple. Now, lastly, let's go over manipulation ranges. This is essentially when price goes from a swing low, manipulates it, and expands into the opposing side of the range or a swing high. So here we are on the daily chart. We're going to be using bar replay to show you guys how the market moves. This is the only way the market moves. It is a very consistent framework that we use on all time frames. So as you can see, price has traded into an external range high. So what happens after that? What can we do? We can retrace into this gap, going from ERL to IRL, right? Once price goes into IRL, what can we do, right? We can go to ERL. There's really only two things can happen here, right? We can either, manipulate this high to go to all these range lows, so that would be manipulation ranges. But did we really manipulate this high? No, we expanded way through it. So that's probably a continuation, right? So ERL to IRL here typically is a continuous signature, right? So once it gets to IRL, then we go from IRL to ERL, right? And now we're going to see what happens when we get this high. So boom, we get to this high. And within the same candle that reached this high, clearly we manipulate, right? Do you see the difference in reaction here? When we hit this high, we trade way through it. So we know when we go to ERL to IRL, it's probably going to create a new high, right? But over here, when we go to IRL to ERL and reach this high, we get a very displacing move away from this high, which is actually a reversal signature, which means that this gap here is probably not going to hold, right? So we're probably not going to get an IRL to ERL move like we did over here. We're probably going to reach this low. And then we're going to reassess what happens when you reach this low. Okay, we pretty much disrespect it. So this little manipulation ranges is now completed, right? It went from manipulation range high down to the low, except we're not really manipulating this low. So what can happen here is that we can potentially go from ERL to IRL, a move higher ideally, right? So play one candle forward. Okay, we create an indecision candle. We create a gap right here. So maybe this is the gap that price wants to use. So bar replaying one candle forward. Okay, we do not reach into this gap. We actually create a lower gap. Maybe it wants to use this gap to go lower. Let's see. And as you can see, price goes from IRL to ERL and takes out all of these lows. So as you can see, the market is very repeating in this framework.